What's up, everybody? Big Herc 916, getting down with Fresh Out. You know how we do it over here. Smash that like button, hit that subscribe button. Go to the website, represent, sign up so that you can stay hip to what we got going on over here. Support the channel. Man, I'm telling you, we're doing big things with big interviews. We're doing a lot of transitioning with our content. You know, a lot of people talking about, oh man, you know, you guys have gotten redundant, this and that. Well, we're interviewing people that have a voice that you haven't heard yet. So make sure you guys support and represent the channel. And if you have to, go buy a bar of soap and wash your ass. You know, don't be stinking. I'm here with Bryan Buckley, 09.
Yep.
And dude, we're about to get into it. This guy's had a stellar military career. He's got some hell of a stories. You know, a lot of things in the news right now with the military, recruiting, the whole woke thing, just a lot of craziness. So I've been trying to have more military people on the channel, shifting from the prison stuff, because I felt I've covered a lot of that, and I have a lot of tie-ins with military because a lot of my family was in the military and I grew up on a military base. So I like having guys here from the military to get their perspective. Bryan, man, tell the people out there like where you're from and how you grew up.
Sure. Yeah, I'm from an area called Doylestown, Pennsylvania, so it's right outside Philadelphia. Where I grew up, it was like a massive high school football program, one of those like football towns you read about. So we were always ranked like top 10 in the nation, USA Today and all that stuff. So when you're a kid, that's all you want to do is go play for the high school football team. And went and did that, had a nice career, and went off to the University of Massachusetts to go play football.
All right.
And during the time, I think it was my junior year, we're in the state playoffs, and the team that we're playing, their coach was the former head coach at Naval Academy. And I had a good game, and I remember, like, I'm getting letters from Naval Academy, and my dad's all excited, like, wow, Naval Academy. And I'm like, no way. Like, I don't want to go anything military. Grow my hair long, drink some beer, play some ball. If I got time, I'll go to class. Yeah. So I'm at UMass. I was a 235-pound fullback at this point, and woke up one September morning, and I remember turning on TV, lived with about 4 other football players. I noticed one of the World Trade Towers is smoking. And I started thinking about it in 1993 when Al-Qaeda first tried to blow up the World Trade Tower, and I'm like, man, I didn't think 93 was that bad. And I get a call from a good buddy who's playing at the University of Michigan. He's flipping out, can't get a hold of anyone. I'm like, man, what? Like, I'm not tracking what's happening. Then I see the second plane fly into the tower, and I'm like, wow, like something's up here. And obviously we were at war at that point, and our lives changed. So I went down to the football complex later that day. We didn't tape up. We had about 3 big screen TVs in our locker room. Had about a dozen guys or so from like New York City on the team. And this is where like we age ourselves. Like back in 2001, cell phones weren't what they are now. So everyone was still pretty attached to landlines, and no one could get a hold of anyone. And we didn't practice. We went back up to the apartment, grabbed a couple cases of beer, and we're watching TV. And this is where I'm seeing people throwing themselves out of the building at this point. And I remember thinking, like, how bad a situation are they in that they're like, I'm going to jump out of this building. That's my best course of action. And there was this woman who threw herself out. I remember she was holding her dress, and as she was falling to the earth, and obviously she knew what was going to happen. And to me, that just kind of spoke of America, like she was doing things on her terms and doing it with dignity. And that's when I decided, hey, I got to get into this fight. So got up, went to the bathroom, looked at myself in the mirror, and said, time for me to go earn my citizenship. And just kind of kept that to myself, finished out the season. But then I just started making a transition to the military and ended up transferring to Villanova University. Got into the ROTC program there, dropped 235 down to 185, and went through, graduated, became an officer in the Marine Corps, and went into the infantry, was in 2nd Battalion, 8th Marines, went to Fallujah, Iraq. When I came back from that, they asked me to go try out for Marine Reconnaissance, so I tried out, made that. They sent me right back to Iraq 6 months later. And when I came back from that deployment, we were starting up our special operations unit called Marine Raiders. Sent me to selection. A lot of us went, not a lot of us made it out. I was one of the fortunate ones to make it through. And at that point, I was a team commander and conducted deployments into Southeast Asia, Africa, as well as Afghanistan, in particular the Helmand province. And got shot up a couple times, all that good stuff. But when I got out, I was 100% disabled. And working for an ed tech firm, it was all good, making money, but I just wasn't fulfilled. And that's when I decided I really wanted to kind of gear my life to helping out veterans. and started a nonprofit called Battle Brothers Foundation, and then started a cannabis company called Hellman Valley Growers Company. And we donate 100% of our profits to our FDA/institutional review board approved study to see if medical cannabis can help reduce the symptoms of post-traumatic stress with veterans. And here I am today.
Wow, man, that's a hell of a story, man. And to have that sense of pride for the country, I think it's something I don't really hear spoken a lot about today. I mean, even myself as an ex-felon and the stuff I did, I still felt that, I had pride in America. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be the type of person just to bow down and let, foreign occupation come over here and be cool with high-fiving these dudes or be with seeing the country fall. I did certain things about government as far as like the leadership I think needs to be reformed, but as far as the principles and what I believe America stood for, that's something that I believe in, regardless of, what they say about the country's history. There's a certain values I feel like, when I see somebody else who takes pride in his neighbor values, family values, and things of that nature, I just find something really strong in that. But as you dig deeper and you start looking like behind the scenes, I kind of saw that I have a certain value, but what's going on behind the scenes ain't necessarily what they portray on the front line.
Yeah.
What did you notice, like, going through the military, having experienced what you experienced, but then seeing like the big picture? Because a lot of these people in Congress and behind the scenes, dude, they're not involved in any gunfights. Their kids aren't going to battle. They're not losing loved ones, and they're saying it's for for democracy when we're based on a republic first off, and then you see like, well, damn, it's like a lot of these places have been destabilized for the greater good of oil or petrodollar.
Yeah. Yeah, while you're in, what I tell people what I kind of miss about the military is the simplicity of it in terms of like, when you're deployed and you're somewhere, it's somewhat peaceful because what you got is what you got. I mean, you kind of take care of all your paperwork, everything back here in the rear. If you've, unfortunately, are the ones who get killed or something like that, I mean, for me to go fight with a happy heart, I had my funeral planned and all, whatever it was going to be, and let's just go down range and do what I got to go do. And, I can remember being on certain deployments and you hear about big things like Benghazi and you're kind of like, oh, it sounds like they had a rough night in Africa. You just don't even care about it, or if this, that, what, it's going to be massive news because you're so focused on your little slice of the pie. And you can find kind of peace in that where you're just so present on what you have to do. And, I'd hear people talk about, the military industrial complex and all that, and you're like, whatever, man, I don't care. Like, I'm just kind of going to do my thing. But I think more as I've gotten away from it, probably grown up, look at things a little more holistically, you kind of do see the corruption and the things that are going on. Now, I tell people, I'm like, listen, America still is the greatest experiment in the world. I've seen a lot of the world, and it's fucked. I mean, it is just a bad place with a lot of bad people. Everyone wants this kumbaya, peace on earth thing. Doesn't matter if they're friends or allies, whatever. Everyone has their own personal interests, and they're going to make sure they take care of it and they get theirs. So just kind of look out for that. Where I look at this country, you want to go do something, you want to go make yourself, it doesn't matter where you were. It doesn't matter how far down the rock bottom you made. You can rebuild yourself and you can get back up there. There's other countries where you're born, that's where you are. You're not going to move forward. But, I do, I would say I take a look at Iraq now, where before I'm like, no, we're going there, we're going to get Saddam, we're going to do all this great stuff, hooray. Yeah, you kind of look back and you're like, man, that was the Iraq war sponsored by Halliburton. That was no kidding, man. They were just pumping us out there. What were we doing? I mean, I get it. Oil, all that stuff is a national security interest of ours. But you kind of just look at how things have played out and what we do with certain things. You're like, this is all for people who are in power to make sure they remain in power. I think they go in with the right mindset and the right heart, but ultimately you owe favors and you get corrupted. And I think we're starting to see that really play out a lot now, where I really think COVID just kind of exposed a lot. And I don't know if people were ready for that to come out, but now here we are, and it's a very interesting dynamic of what we have going on.
You say COVID, right? And you talk about like it broke up people's routine. Mm-hmm. And the routine that people were locked into this program. So the Matrix had everybody kind of like dialed in to a sequence, but you broke up the sequence and now things are like popping up. There's glitches.
Yeah.
And you start looking at stuff differently. I know for myself, because I had been unplugged prior because I did all that time in prison, and I used to look, and I was in prison when the towers hit, and I'm like, what, man, what's going on? And then people were like, you know, oh shit, man, dude, they're flying planes into this and that, right? And everybody's kind of like, wow, and they're talking about lock it down, you know, in the prison, and I'm like, oh shit, here it comes, they're gonna gas us up in here, you know?
Yeah.
And the guys who had any type of domestic terrorism or any type of like, you know, associated with terrorist acts, they went to the hole and this and that. And then come fast forward a year and a half later, or 2 years later, I'm in another facility and some guys from church come and they bring the 911, I forgot what it's called, 911, The Truth Untold or something. And we're watching this in a library. I'm like, what the hell is this shit? Dude, I'm like blown away. And these guys are Christians and they're like, it's showing a video and it's showing shit going on. You look at the Pentagon, there's no airplane, but this place over here got blown up and they had $1 trillion worth of unaccounted money that year. And then this over here happened. Then they're showing the guy, I've heard explosions, boom, 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 boom. You're like, dude, was this a psyop or what?
I mean, it's so weird because you even see the things that kind of slide underneath the radar. I mean, you got to, like you said, I think it's well put, like, you know, there was a disruption in the Matrix, and I think gave a lot of time to think and kind of unplug, and some people keep going with the status quo. But you see things like the 9/11 report. All right, everyone knows there's 11 to 13 pages as redacted, and it's about Saudi Arabia. Okay. And I get the geopolitics of that area. You got the Sunnis and Shias, and you got to play with one. The other one, we know Iran's a huge destabilizer, and clearly we're seeing what they're playing around with right now. They did not want to see Israel and Saudi make normalized relations, and they kind of launched all this stuff, and they want to keep a chaotic area. But I'll never forget the time where they're like, there was a guy who went to LAX airport and he picked up 7 Saudis a Saturday night and just said, hey, they seem like good guys. I brought them back to my house and we just hung out. And then next thing you know, those guys were the guys flying the planes. Because we all go to LAX on Saturday night and just pick up 7 random Arab guys who just meet. And now it came out, I think it was like a month or two ago, and it kind of just went under the radar, but Biden had to declassify it, that the guy who picked them up was a Saudi intel agent. So go think about this one. Like, how was this all planned out? What was going on? Who knew? I don't know. Because before, I'm like, nah, guys, shut up, man. We were attacked. These guys did this. But now you're like, yeah, you'd be naive to say maybe there wasn't something else at play there.
See, for me, too, being in jail and seeing how they do you in prison with your case and how they isolate guys and they make up stories. I said, these people, they're diabolical.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The prosecutor and them, they're diabolical. Even like, you know, some of these people who were loyal American, like soldiers, because there's military people in the feds too. And I remember a guy telling me there was a guy in there. I want to say, I don't know for sure, but he's saying he was in the hole with the guy, but I want to say, but maybe CIA, and he'd work for the government, but they needed him during that Oliver North thing when all the stuff was going on with the Iran-Contra and the drugs and stuff. They needed a fall guy. So they convinced this guy to come back to the United States. When they did, they arrested him. And he took a fall, but he was still, and I forgot the guy's name, but a friend of mine was in the hole with this guy, and this guy, they convinced him by telling his wife to get him to come back, because literally he was running black ops, had made so much money, and he had a legitimate foreign business. But from what he told me, and like I said, I can't say exactly the details because this was like 20 years ago, but they told the wife, if you can get him to come back, we'll give you this property, this, and this. And basically, you know, the guy came back, they arrested him, gave him 20 years, said he committed something against the country, blah, blah, blah. But he's working for the government. Yeah. But he took a fall, and I'm like, dude, if they do people like that under the bus, God, man, what the hell? You know what I mean? And then you start reading about like, then, you know, that was the catalyst for the Patriot Act under John Ashcroft. Sure. You know, and then surveillance and all this other stuff. So you're like, dude, literally, and then the guy who took out, you know, took out all the insurance on the World Trade Center, and then a lot of people didn't show up for work that day. Yeah. You know, and then you see billions. Guy made a bunch of money off the insurance. You're like, this shit is crazy, man.
It's weird, and it's so true with that, you know, Patriot Act. I mean, it's amazing these bills they put out that sound like great with the title. I mean, what did Pelosi put out there? The Inflation Reduction Act, and it's all green energy shit. Yeah. It has nothing to do with, no inflation's been reduced. But, no. Yeah, that Patriot Act, I mean, I found it very fascinating where I tell people, I'm like, I love what Elon Musk is doing with Twitter or X, because whenever you get Democrats and Republicans are pissed off at the same person, I want to know why. There's something you're doing that's messing up the matrix. And when he had RFK Jr. on, and they were talking about the Patriot Act and where conspiracy theory and all that came from, and RFK Jr. is like, listen, like in the Patriot Act, there was a cutout that, back in 1969, basically Nixon and everyone was saying these biological weapons, we can't be doing this anymore. And in 1972, we had international legislation where it's no more biological weapon testing. If you do it, it's death by hanging in The Hague, and all this stuff is a war crime. Well, the Patriot Act cut that out, that it's still internationally illegal, but if you're doing biological testing for the government, we're okay, type of thing. And they're like, it goes back to Anthony Fauci. They're like, he had these biological labs all around America. 2014, they had an outbreak of smallpox. Congress wrote President Obama a letter like, listen, we got to calm down with this stuff. So he shut down 14 of the most dangerous ones. They're like, Fauci's no fool. He took it offshore. And he was the highest paid government official of anyone over the president. And they're like, and yeah, he has some in Ukraine. And he has one at the Wuhan lab, is one of ours. And it's like, that's why I was so convinced where, one, bats are bad luck in the Chinese culture. They don't eat bats. That's like putting death on themselves. They don't go eat those things. But then RFK Jr. said, he goes, I don't have like solid evidence, but he's like, I'm looking at this from a common sense point. It's like, if you look at the subway rail of how that goes through Wuhan, it literally stops at the lab and then goes to the airport. And then people get on the plane and they fly, and next thing you know, you got global pandemic. And he's like, you got these 3 doctors who they think were patient zero coughing on people. There you go. And then he even talks about the vaccine where and it made sense to me from a military standpoint. He's like, if you are creating a biological weapon, there is a 100% chance you're going to blow back on your troops. I mean, you're going to unleash this thing. It's going to come back on the battlefield on your own people. So you're simultaneously building a vaccine while you're building that weapon to kind of coincide. He goes, was the vaccine ready for prime time? No. Did they lie to us? Yes. Like, who didn't get the vaccine get sick? I mean, it is what it is. But that's where the whole money play and all the protections are coming in from. And you're just seeing that corrupt side of our bureaucrats, which is really disheartening.
Too. See, as soon as I seen that, I already said they did it. Yeah. You can't convince me. I'm not that. People hold conspiracy. I'm not that. I don't know, man. I don't see black and white.
Yeah.
I always see a gray area.
There you go.
And when you study Tuskegee Project.
Yep.
For one, okay, you could talk about that all day. The experiment with syphilis with these military black
100%.
Military soldiers.
Yeah.
Then they got in the 1950s when they had in San Francisco, the Bay Area, they had those ships. They were spraying bacteria in the air.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know this. This stuff is all coming out now because the information is out there. I mean, they always put, fact check. That's bullshit. It's real shit.
Yeah.
Videos. They were spraying shit, and literally they were trying to see how long it would take for this bacteria to cause respiratory reaction, and how filled the hospitals got. And it wasn't to kill you, but it was enough to make you sick.
Yep.
Then they showed another thing where they had a car with fake exhaust, and they were driving around the city, and it was pumping out shit in exhaust.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember, it was New York and also San Francisco. See, they always have these experimental cities. Typically, it's New York, Frisco, Seattle now. They do these experiments, these PSYOP experiments, typically coastal cities, because of the wind, the air, the wind, the mixture, and just the accessibility. So when you see shit like California, it's like ground zeros for a lot of this shit, and then it goes in, and usually by the Midwest, they're like all doing with the bullshit. But they try these little places where it's very liberal-minded also, where they can like kind of convince people, and people are pretty open. Oh, well, I'll just take this. They're very accepting.
Yep.
And they're also sanctuary cities where they have a lot of illegal, so it doesn't matter. The throwaways they considered. So it's just very interesting, and I always look at it from that perspective, and also being in prison and seeing how they played with different things mentally by putting like, okay, how many people can we put in this facility before it implodes?
Yeah. With
a riot, or what kind of food can we feed these people? How long can we feed them this garbage before they don't want to eat it? Before they'll lock it down. So I was seeing stuff like that because, even during this, so-called, COVID pandemic, whatever you want to call it, dude, they had lines at Ralph's, right? I'm like, dude, Like literally like a line to go in there and go get some food.
Yeah.
With arrows like we're like in the county jail to walk a certain direction.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at this shit. So I got to have my wife act like she's not with me to buy 2 pieces of meat. I got to get 2 packs of meat. I see this other dude, he's a bodybuilder. He's got like 2 other people with him because he's a bodybuilder. He's trying to get extra meat.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing all this bullshit. I said, man, this is like goddamn commissary in prison.
It's crazy.
You go and buy 2 beef sausages.
Yep.
You know? But then I go to Malibu and there's no mask. I go and I say, man, I'm gonna throw a couple extra packs of ground beef. Nothing happens. I can buy it. God, this is great in the rich neighborhoods.
Yeah.
This shit, so I'm like, you know, you gotta use common sense, and maybe because I've been a street dude too, I've seen other shit, so I didn't fall for the shit, man. I'm like, dude, there's something else to this.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. I mean, it's so obvious, and that's what's the frustrating part. And like you said, to the point where they do these projects or whatever they're doing, it's people who want to be controlled by a nanny state. I mean, I'm like looking at shit here in California where it's like they're gonna take away warnings and preservatives and certain Cheetos and stuff like that. It's like, dude, if you're going to McDonald's and think, oh, this is actually bad, I'm putting it in my body, you're a fucking idiot, all right? You should know exactly what you're doing. Like, I'm making a decision. Yes, I know it's fast food. I know it's not the best thing ever, but I want it, and I'm going to have some, all right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't need someone to, like, restrict me or tell me what to do because I'm a mature adult. I know what I'm doing to my body. But all this other stuff, people just kind of want it to happen and just like, oh, control, and tell you what to do. It's like, dude, this is not who we are. This is not how we're built, and that's why we're resisting so much. And I tell other people too, it's like, you guys get pissed off about Donald Trump, and that triggers people. Donald Trump is a result of our failed politicians because of how much they fucked around with us, how they were handed an amazing experiment, and they fucked it up, and they're using it for themselves. And you can say what you will about Trump, whatever. The guy lost money while he was in office.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
the only guy who lost money. And something about that speaks to me that all this shit that he's getting fucking prosecuted with, which I'm not saying he's innocent or guilty, it's just really suspicious. It's all coming up right now when the height of a presidential election is about to happen. He is messing up the system, and something's up right there, and that's what intrigues me about him.
Another thing that intrigues me is the fact that both parties are mad at him. They don't like him. See, this is the thing. People think like, oh, you're an elitist. Okay, I could be from a certain neighborhood, and I grew up around certain people. It don't mean I get down with them.
Right.
I could have seen him at, oh, yeah, I seen what's up, woo, woo. But I'm like, he's with some other shit. I don't get down with that type of shit. But I've seen it and I've been around it. Like I've seen some shit in Hollywood, but I'm like, I'm not with that bullshit. So you could be around and seen some shit, have known somebody who maybe was involved in some shit, but then when they see that, okay, Bryan, oh, I know Bryan, Bryan, blah, blah, blah. Is Bryan down with it? I don't know, man. I thought he was cool. Is he cool? I don't know. He's at the, did he do any blow? I don't know. Did he go in there and hook up that chick? He's married. What? He's married? Oh, did Bryan? So man, Bryan's a little, is he kind of a square? Or is he with the pro? Dude, is he with it or not? He's making moves, bro. He's getting power. We gotta, find out. Send somebody with him, so-and-so. Have him play with the Bryan and tell them that, this person, they love. So, he's telling all these people, hey, man, Bryan, hey, bro, you're hella cool. Bryan, you're the man. And you're like, okay, but these people are all plants. And see, even in the gangs I've seen where they put people around, and these people they're not loyal to you, but they're there to basically monitor your progress and to also throttle you down. And to actually, in some positions, sabotage your ass without you knowing it. And so the politic game, I think, for Trump to have, and, people talk shit, oh, he did this in the game, he did this. Look, dude, when you're building in New York, New Jersey, dealing with the mob,
100%.
the cement, dude, you're talking about gangster deal.
Go see Vinny, then go see his cousin Alfonso.
Oh, dude.
It's like, if you don't go see them, you're not building shit.
Casinos?
That's how it goes.
You're not paying this dude? Do you want your food and service? Food?
Exactly.
The food service, is that going to get delivered? Is this going to happen? Dude, you got to be pretty gangster, bro. And so, but that tells you, and even mobsters have saying it. I've heard Francesi, I heard him talk about it, that you talking about politicians, next level. Dude, you got a guy who got 17 shell corporations, and his family's still running business. And he's not even in dude. So when people talk about politics and they talk about, this guy, dude, you got a guy who's got 17, none of these corporations have a business, and they're all getting international wire transfers.
Weird, right? I mean, and that's where, again, too, like what we were talking about earlier, is, my wife was talking about this podcast, just listen to it. This guy's like an atheist. but he's forcing his kids to go to church. And he's like, if you kind of look at the, the attendance of churches and synagogues and all that stuff, it's just dropped. Like, people aren't going it. And what's filling the void is the politics is now becoming people's new religion. I mean, we're tribal people. We want some faith, something to believe in. Well, people are now starting to have that faith in the politicians. So you could sit down with a Democrat and you're like, listen, dude, 17 shell companies. This guy's a crackhead. He's a fucking mess. You can't say he's the smartest guy on earth and then say, oh, I just love my kid because he's had some bad times. And what fucking father, if your kid's an addict, doesn't ask your kid, hey, you just got $1 million in from Ukraine, why? It's just like, oh, I don't want to ask about the international business. Then you suck as a fucking father. But people are so like, well, they're telling us there's nothing there, so there's nothing there. Why? Because you're religious, beholden to the Democrat Party's telling you don't worry about it? Bullshit. Open up your eyes and think of the common sense. This makes no reason why these things have no business plans, no websites, no nothing, but they're some of the most profitable international businesses ever. Oh, and by the way, the guy happens to be president of the United States. Come on.
Well, even I was, when I'm sitting there listening, and I don't want to get too deep in this one, but we're gonna tap on it on another video, man, because I could keep going. But dude, how they weaponize the black women to, and then people want to say it, to get the black men to vote a certain way, and also they made it to where there's like a quote unquote invisible clause where you can't contradict or speak against them, or you're racist, or you're a bigot.
Yeah.
And literally, I've heard that I can't remember her name, and she's like, that guy, he has unconditional love for his son. He's the best father ever, and for you to say he's not doing the right thing, that's a great father right there. And this guy, and I'm listening to this woman, right, and I'm like, dude, this shit is crazy. Yeah. And then I'm like, when I hear that, and then I hear all these other guys who kind of like follow behind the votes, and it's interesting because about 2-3 weeks ago, me and my partner were on the Hollywood Boulevard, and by just chance, we were standing by the Donald Trump star, right? And every guy that went by there, they would look down at Donald Trump, and their wife would be like, "Get over here." And I look at the dude, I said, "You like Donald Trump?" He's like, his wife would look at him. I'm like, damn, no joke. Yeah. Ask my partner, every dude, one dude from Africa, they walk by Donald Trump. He squatted down, take a picture. His wife's like, he got up, he left. I said, damn, dude, the women run shit.
Yeah.
They let these dudes are like, one dude took a picture, and then one dude from Philippines. Now another guy, he's like, Donald Trump. I said, you like Donald Trump? He said, Donald Trump. He's like, man, he's handling business, man. We have Donald Trump. We'll be in a war right now. I said, okay. And then some Polish people came, and they took a picture, and they were like kind of cool. But dude, it was funny, man. Everybody stopped at the thing and looked around to see if anybody was looking at them before they were going to take a picture. They all wanted pictures with Trump stars.
Yeah.
And like, dude, it just blows my mind, but it's a perfect example of how media controls the masses. This narrative, if you don't unplug, the what do they call it, the legacy media, how they once they took over the media, they didn't even have to do nothing. That was it. That was the last. That was the last pin. That was the last domino.
That was it. I mean, it's literally. You think about too about how bad the Republicans, Democrats have screwed all this up, and the whole entire. I mean, media got really jacked up with the 60-minute phenomenon. Because before, people just put the news on the Cronkite days, right, where everyone trusted news. They went into the red. They're going to lose money, but they're like, we gotta put the news on. So they didn't really care. Like, hey, a deer walked across the street, got hit by a car, and that was it. Now it's like, oh, deer walked across the street, a guy with a MAGA hat on potentially ran that thing down. They put their own spin on it.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but once they saw that 60 Minutes became the #1 show in America, so all the advertisers were like, we can make money.
Yeah.
So that's now all of a sudden you look at a Fox News or MSNBC, they're polar opposite on the same issue, but they're all trying to fill their advertiser and their base of what their people want to hear, and they're going to feed it to them. They're not going to give you the real news.
No.
And that's why I say, I'm like, Republicans and Democrats have fucked us up so much that if it wasn't that bad in what they've done and just their own corruption and trying to make themselves about their own power and stop worrying about what we wanted, Donald Trump would still be hosting Celebrity Apprentice. He wouldn't be up and doing this stuff.
You're right. Hey, and there you have it. Big Herc 916 getting down fresh out. You tired of smelling like stanky butt, funky armpits? Wash your ass. Go to FreshOutSeries.com and pick you up a bar of soap.